Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Making of Pod. I'm Ashley Hovez.
I'm Collin Samory.
And I'm Brian Ho as
W-
special guest.
We have the trifecta of the making of. Hi guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Oh, just another day above ground is a beautiful thing. So moving forward, how are you guys doing?
Feeling before we hit record, I was just telling Colin that yesterday I was feeling like garbage. Woke up and just felt off, like really big headache, and my body just felt really drained. And I think I have chemo. What is it?
Sympathy?
Sympathy symptoms. I was nauseous all day. I kid you not. I was nauseous, lethargic. I had a headache.
I
Is
felt
that similar to how
I felt the same
chemo's been
way.
for you?
Yeah, but I had chemo on Friday, so yeah, but I did feel that way yesterday too. I wanted to be nice and adventurous and try to pretend like everything was okay, and so took our boys to their baseball practices and was out at the park for 3.5, 4 hours. And by the end of that 3.5 hours, I was wanting to lie in the grass and not move, and then came home and lied on the couch for a while. Good times.
That was a bit optimistic of
Yeah.
you.
You gotta try to push the body, right? Something like that.
See, I listen to my body, especially when it says lie down. That's like my favorite command. Thou shalt rest. Yes.
Lie
Colin,
down and I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
Perfect.
Yes. That's when I really listen. I'm very in
Mhm.
tune. How are you feeling, Col?
I'm a little heartbroken today, you guys.
Oh,
Oh, last night's game. Yeah.
The Patriots lost.
Yeah.
yeah.
The-
They didn't look very good. They
No, they looked awful.
yeah,
It's okay. You can say it.
yeah. I mean, you got a young team, so hopefully they learn, but they look like a young team well out of their element.
Yes, very much so. Not to make this totally about football, but the Seahawks didn't look great either. The first like three quarters were very boring. So,
Agreed. We actually turned it off. Our boys got
Bored.
bored. And so after 3 quarters, we turned it off. Which I mean, we missed a little bit of scoring, but I don't think we missed much of anything.
No, I
you
think
didn't.
we kept it longer only because everybody was excited about the commercials.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which weren't that great either, but
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
And then we watched The Lincoln Lawyer. So there you go. We
is there
probably
an
shouldn't have our kids be watching Lincoln Lawyer, but they love it.
the movie or the show?
No,
Because
the
there's a show
show.
too.
Yeah, the
Is it
The
show.
a
show. There's a new
the new one?
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they're big fans of murder mystery stuff.
Yeah. We're great parents. We let them watch all the things.
you're
Well,
just exposing them now. See, it's fine.
Yeah. I think it allows everyone to just take their mind off of,
life.
everything, life.
Hmm.
It's a good distraction for sure.
Yeah.
How are
But
they doing?
so you
Up and
want to
down.
talk?
Yeah, I mean, I think up and down. I think overall pretty good, but I think at times you can kind of see the chinks in the armor when they, sometimes kind of understand things a little bit better. We currently have two other shaved heads in the house now.
How do you
Oh,
shave his
Heidi
head?
shaved his head yesterday. It ended up in a lot of noise and fighting because Brady shaved his head. But instead of going with the clip that Hudson had agreed on, Brady went with a number one clip, which makes his hair look like there's absolutely nothing on his head, which was
oh
a
man.
which was a little bit more than I think Hudson was prepared for. And so there was a lot of wrestling and a lot of fighting
A
while
lot of
Brady.
hitting. Don't sugarcoat it. There was a lot of hitting on the head.
Yeah, they've discovered that with shaved heads, they really enjoy slapping each other on the head.
Oh my God.
So that's quite literally everything that's happening in our house is just as people walk by each other, they're just slapping each other on the head. But yeah, so we have three shaved heads now in our house, and they still make fun of me because my hair is the least visible. I'm trying to help them understand that the difference between your hair falling out and you shaving your head. Baby steps.
Do you think Cody is going to shave his head?
No,
No,
no.
I can't see that.
I'd
no.
I'd, I'd like him to grow his hair out long and make up for the rest of us.
Yeah. Cody has really nice hair. He's got
Mm-hmm.
waves in his hair, which is beautiful when he actually grows it out.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the boys are doing well. Yesterday was the first day though. So we didn't feel very well. So typically our morning routine is we get up and then we get ready for 8:30 service
Mm-hmm.
at a church nearby. And I wasn't feeling well. I told Brian that. And then we ended up just watching Elevation Church. Elevation Church is a big church in North Carolina, and they have a weekly stream. They do it live, and they celebrated their 20-year anniversary yesterday. And Brady, our middle son, ended up watching with us. And I couldn't help but cry. And then I look over and Brian's crying. And then Brady, he's always been like he's our empathetic one. Like he's our
Mm-hmm.
cuddly one out of we only have one cuddly boy and it's Brady. And he was watching service with us and then he started crying like a lot. Like he was holding me, he was holding Brian.
Mm.
And there was a part that really touched me, like towards the end, where they did a closing prayer. And it was basically if you take in Jesus, if you believe that he's your Lord and Savior, go ahead and raise your hand if this is the first time you're receiving him. And he raised his hand and
Oh.
and that just made me start bawling and like Brian was bawling. And then the three of us like stood up and we were just holding each other and the other boys saw what we were doing and then they started a group hug as well. But you could tell that it's just been a lot for Brady. I think it
Yeah.
was his first time that he cried. Hudson cried the very first time because we told him right away what was going on with Brian. And
Mm-hmm.
that was already so heartbreaking. And throughout this like course of chemo and every Brady has been really good about just maintaining high spirits and just always asking like Brian like how are you doing and giving hugs. Like the random hugs are the best, but yesterday was an emotional day for sure.
And for people who have never met Brady, Brady is a 5'1", 140-pound 10-year-old. He is a ball of love, and it is an amazing, amazing thing to witness. He has always been this like really, really cuddly boy, but it's hilarious because you see him and he just looks like
A
he's a
tank.
monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it is just an amazing thing to be able to see how he can kind of show his emotions in the setting of him being who most people would probably consider a relatively intimidating feature size as a 10-year-old. But anywho,
We tell him that he's Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Do you remember? Did you ever read
Oh.
that book? Oh,
yeah, I like soft things.
yeah,
That's definitely Brady.
that's Brady.
Bull in China shop breaks things while trying to love them tremendously.
He's the most like you, kind of, right, Ash?
I think so. Like personality wise, I
Yeah.
think he's the emotional one. And I don't think it's a coincidence because he was the one that I stayed at home with for
Mm.
his first year of life. Yeah,
More than, yeah.
more than I stayed at home for 15 months. So it was my
Mm.
transition out from my last associateship. And then we moved to LA for Brian's fellowship at UCLA. And
Mhm.
rather than try to get an associateship for a year, I just stayed at home and I took care of the two boys. And then, yeah, Brady was at home with me for a long time. But yeah, he's always been the cuddly. We call him Brady Bear for a reason. He's like a teddy bear. Yeah. But it's very rare to see Brian on these episodes. So he was kicking and screaming, but I think that you really should tell your story because you are a perfect example of pivoting, and that has been our word of the century. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Well, on the note of pivoting, yesterday I actually posted a quote that I read to the making of story. And the quote was from a gentleman named Chris Dixon. He's actually talking about technology, but he said, the messy years are what make the obvious years possible. And I felt like it was a very, very good quotation for kind of just about everything in life, right? I mean, you talk about pivots and we talk about trying to figure out what those next steps are going to feel like. A lot of times it's messy, whether you're starting to practice, whether you're, getting a diagnosis, or whether we're just trying to figure out this whole thing called life. There can be a lot of messy years that are built into it. But those messy years are where, I think you've said a lot of times your mess becomes your message. But it's also how, down the road, when people are like, oh man, I can't believe all of this happened. Everything worked out so perfectly for you. It was all built in that mess. And so I think as we've been walking through this, I've been really trying to stay focused on that kind of thought process and, keeping your eyes above water, not paying attention to the storm, and really just kind of walking with faith and knowing that we're going to have something positive come out of this, that this story is going to touch somebody, already, the things that we've kind of seen from this, right? From some of the education that you've been able to do that's already made its way into publications like Newsweek, and just helping other people to learn from this. We're in this part of our journey right now where we're going through chemo. We're looking at some of the different possibilities for treatment. But at the same time, we're really kind of diving into a lot of the different research and trying to learn a lot of the different ways to use food and fasting and supplements to be able to adjunct the chemotherapy that's, we know is supposed to be attacking the cancer. And so I think the more that I've been able to just keep looking forward and keep trying to be purpose driven rather than thinking about what's happening to me and the things that I can't control, it's really helped me mentally to stay a little bit more focused.
I think that is a perfect segue into breaking down exactly each of those components that you touched upon. So you did your third round of chemo on Friday. How, like, mentally, how was this time different than maybe even the first time?
I think the first time was filled with hope and fear, a lot of fear. That first couple of weeks, right? We found out the PET scan was, I think, 8 days before Christmas or something along those lines. And it was kind of this mad dash of deciding between surgery and chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And then the decision was made to do the chemo and immunotherapy because everybody was very concerned that there was a lot of kind of micro spreading, that they weren't seeing the seeding that was happening for the cancer. And so if you went in and tried to resect, potentially there was these seeds that are already there. And so, we were dealing with trying to get chemotherapy set up and getting insurance approvals and finding time in, a Christmas, New Year's week holiday to fit in. And so starting on December 26th is probably not the most ideal time to start a regimen of chemo and immunotherapy. And so I think the stress of that and the anxiety around just getting started had a lot of fear associated with it. Round two, I think we prepared a little bit better. We mentally, I think we had worked through the hardest parts of just really coming to grasp with the diagnosis of it being spread into the lymph nodes, and we're doing this a slightly different way. We had a little bit different plan at that point. I went into the second round fasted, had read a couple of studies that I thought were very promising, looking at tolerating chemotherapy better and potentially allowing the chemo to have access to those cells in a better fashion to be able to kill them better. And so I fasted for a day and a half, about 2 days before the second chemotherapy. But we also did steroids going to that second chemotherapy because I had a full body rash with the first one. And so this third one, I think we kind of went in with a lot better thought out plan, right? And so we had adapted nutrition for the entire time since I was diagnosed in July. I had been following a ketogenic diet and trying to stay mostly in the realm of super low carb, high fat, relatively high protein. And we made a decision after the second round of chemotherapy that we were going to try something different. And a lot of the things that we were reading were looking more towards a plant-based whole foods diet. And so we started to make that transition beforehand. I went in with actually a little bit longer of a fast into round 3. And so I fasted from Tuesday night until Saturday, actually. So it was 3 days before the day of, and then 24 hours after chemotherapy. And, I think thankfully I've trained my body well over the years. I definitely wouldn't recommend people who have never done a fast to do their first fast going through chemo. But I have done fasts in the past and know that my body can tolerate it and know how my body feels going through it. And so came through this one. And yeah, I mean, I think we have a little bit different plan. We're going to be mostly plant-based at this point, trying to probably fit in a little bit of seafood, potentially some eggs, because I do think that eggs do provide some good nutrition, and trying just something a little bit different than we had been doing before. And so I think we just keep evolving as we're going through this journey and trying to find ways of control, for sure. I know I'm a control freak. I think most people that become doctors or physicians and you're running your practice, you're running your companies, there's an element of control that helps us to feel like we're not just letting the disease process kind of run its course. And so for sure, trying to hark on some of these things has helped me with kind of feeling like I have at least some semblance of control.
And just to do a deeper dive into the diet component. So, with how fast that Brian's tumor was growing, so in a span of a month, it had doubled in size when you compare the two images. And because he was already consuming a high fat, high protein diet, we're like, okay, well, obviously, this tumor, whatever you're eating, it's eating it too. So maybe not all tumors are created equal. Maybe a ketogenic diet isn't necessarily what your body needs right now. And that's when I started looking into Dr. Walter Longo, Longo. He wrote a ton of books on longevity and fasting cancer specifically. So the fasting mimicking diet. And he is a big proponent of 95% plants and then implementing 2 to 3 servings of fish a week. That is it. He thinks that the American diet is too fearful of carbs. So that was a huge dogma going into this was, okay, like we know that plants are healthy, but this is such a big switch eating legumes, eating beans and lentils and peas. The ketogenic diet, you have to keep your carbs 20 grams or fewer. So you can't even eat an apple because an apple has 25 grams of carbs. So Brian didn't even allow himself to enjoy fruit like berries and no beans. Everything was just so protein heavy and fat heavy. So now we did basically a complete 180 of the diet. I've been juicing, and I know Collin will ask me about that. And we can talk about Collin's journey about juicing or with juicing. But now I don't know how Brian feels, but I feel good. Like I actually am not craving the crazy sweets that I was craving before, eating a more whole diet with the fruits and the vegetables. I feel full. So yesterday and the day before, I think, well, I didn't track any macros, but before it was like I need to eat 40 to 50 grams of protein at every meal in order to hit my macros target. And yesterday I didn't have any animal protein, but we ordered some Indian food and it was amazing. I love Indian food and they have so many amazing options for vegetarians. So we had that for dinner and lunch. And I don't know, I just feel really good, like really good.
Yeah, no, I mean it's been a long time. I think we tried vegetarianism in like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
I was coming out of my master's thesis and I was actually in 4th year of medical school. And I remember just trying to change it up. I always enjoyed trying different diets and trying to see how they felt. And I remember back then we switched for a few months and uh, I remember your biggest takeaway at the time was just the amount of time that it took to be able to prepare food. In a world where you were brand new in your career, I was a medical student, and the amount of food that was necessary to feed us in that time of trying it out, I lost a ton of weight at that point with just being vegetarian, and I think almost to the point that we kind of turned away from it because we were having trouble trying to figure out how to keep weight on for me. But it was now returning to it all these years later. It's definitely a kind of a different thought process in kind of coming back up to it. And the juicing has been really fun to kind of get into. I think there's a lot of different theories on juicing and a lot of different ways that people have used juicing over time, both treating disease as well as just for health purposes. And I will say I was anti you buying a juicer because you are the small appliance queen, and our house is filled with every single small appliance that everybody could ever imagine. Once it pops up on Amazon or something along those lines, Ash will get every advertisement until she buys it, and she will buy it.
Yeah.
So side note, we're already on our second juicer of this month.
Okay, one I gave to my mom, or my mom bought from me, I should say. It was too expensive to just give it to her. I'm like, no, you need to pay for this.
Yeah, so Ashley bought one and then had to size up because she wanted a bigger one.
Batch juicing, it takes up a lot of volume. Anyways, Collin, what are your thoughts on juicing? I know that you had mentioned that you used to juice.
Yeah, I mean, several years ago, I think the first time I started to try to lose weight. I think it is. It's just like a great way to get more fruits and vegetables in. For me, it was like inflammation and like trying to get more turmeric into my diet was like a big one because that's so good for you. But yeah, you can do so much. I don't know. But I have a question about like more plant-based because you're talking about the food and like prepping food. And I was vegetarian for several years and it just feels so carb heavy to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? Because juicing is, I mean, it's not going to like sustain you for an entire day's worth of food, right? Like, what else are you eating?
Yeah, I think that was the hard part for, if I think back to what we did 15 years ago, I think that was the hard part, right? I still was trying to stay away from rice, was trying to stay away from, um, I think in a 2010, 2011 world, like quinoa was still pretty like out there that, now it's everywhere, right? But it wasn't like something that was easily attainable at that point. And so, I mean, quite literally, we would buy, 10 pounds of fruit and veggies we'd have to wash and chop. And I mean, I think quite literally, we ate just like gigantic bowls of salad or cut up
So much
vegetables.
chewing.
Ashley's favorite.
Yeah. And so I think that's why it didn't feel like it was super sustainable at that point. We did, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, and I loved it. I remember at the time I was a fourth year medical student and I used to run a ton. And during that time, I was recovering like crazy. I was pushing my mileage insane. I was probably doing 80 miles a week during that time, and I would just recover so quickly. But that said, I wasn't getting as much calories as I probably should have been for the amount that I was running. I was just like pouring off weight. I think in that 4 months, I probably lost 15 pounds. And like, I wasn't somebody that needed to lose 15 pounds.
So we came home for Christmas and his family was like, is Brian sick? Like, is he okay?
Oh,
Like, he basically looked like this, actually.
I had long hair though. Thank you.
Okay, minus the long hair, but his face had just, I mean, it's so noticeable, the weight loss.
It was a lot of weight in a pretty short amount of time. But now we're doing, I think, a little bit more. We added some tubers, right? So there's a lot of different types of yams that Ash has been trying to work. And so, I mean, still, yes, definitely starch is in there.
High carb. It's so different from keto to high carb, but also high fiber. And so we're trying to really focus on getting clean protein. So you can do vegetarianism or veganism so many different ways. There's a lot of like artificial stuff and lots of preservatives and all of that, but we just want whole foods. So lentils, and I'm like, right now I have chickpeas in water that I'm going to cook later to make hummus. So chickpeas, lentils, black beans, tofu, a lot of tofu. And there used to be a really bad myth that was debunked about tofu causing like man boobs or anything like that. But research has shown that actually there's a component in tofu that helps stop cancer growth. So lots of, it's just a completely different way of eating that we're experimenting with. And Brian is going to be doing repeat imaging in
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Sometime next week. Yeah.
Yeah. In next week. So we'll see. I know it's hard to see the immediate effects of what eating just fruits and vegetables will do, but we remain hopeful and steadfast and in faith. And so he's supposed to be doing his surgery in first week of March. Do you want to talk a
Can
little bit
I
about?
can
Oh
I
yeah,
just back you up just real quick? Because I
yeah.
think last time I had talked to you, Ash, you guys were going in for the ultrasound.
Oh, that's right.
So can you talk a little bit, maybe, Brian, you can give some insight to like what the ultrasound appointment was like, and that was what, the week before you had chemo again?
Correct. Yes.
Kind of
Yeah.
just where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, we went and saw the ENT oncologist, and after the PET and the MRI, they're able to identify where the lesions are. And so he was able to kind of track them with ultrasound. So just a different imaging modality that you can do bedside in the office, where you can look over and, very similar to when if people are thinking about pregnancy and you can look at the baby's, size and gestational age and all of that. You can find those tumors once you know where they are, the lymph nodes, and be able to evaluate them, and you get a picture of what they look like, their size, kind of the structure of them. And so he was able to do the bedside ultrasound the last time we were in, and from comparing them from 3 weeks beforehand when he had done it the last time, it sure looked like the tumors were definitely not growing. First and foremost, he did feel like they had probably responded a little bit in terms of size, that they had shrunk a little bit. But maybe most importantly was that he felt like being able to see inside of the lymph nodes, the architecture of the lymph node was much more visible, which means that you're not having as rapid of cell growth, right? When cells are growing tremendously, it looks very messy inside of those lymph nodes. And so when you look at the structure, it looks like there's not very much structure in those lesions. And so what he was able to see is a lot better structure, which implies that they are having less cell turnover, which is less growth. And so, i.e., it sounds like chemo and immunotherapy is working. And so we're all very optimistic about that. And so we'll get a lot better understanding once we get the more advanced imaging with PET and MRI next week, which will give us a much better comparison to where things were in December. But yeah, progress.
We'll take it.
What was the word, Ash? You text me, favorable?
It was favorable.
It's favorable.
Yes. He's so enthusiastic. It was favorable. We're like, okay, so is this a good thing? Yeah, yes, it's favorable. Okay, good.
That's better than not right?
Favorable.
Yeah.
Unfavorable.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're coming from an area of this thing's growing so fast, we just really need to get our hands on it, to favorable. I think that's a big change in direction in terms of the momentum of things. So we got momentum back on our side.
Yes. Yep.
So you had that, and then you went into your third round of chemo. And no, hold on. Actually, I think you guys had an appointment before chemo last week, right?
With the oncologist.
Yes.
Okay. And then what was that for?
Mainly just to go over side effects, make sure that we don't have to change any dosing, seeing if we're going to change up any of the pre-meds, and partly to kind of cover my head. My head, if you're watching us on YouTube, has been covered in a rash for the past couple weeks now, and so we were just kind of fine-tuning some of the medications. My head's finally cleared up. Ended up on some oral antibiotics for it, and with a topical antibiotic as well. But yeah, so really it's just a pretty kind of simple, straightforward, make sure you're tolerating. We're not changing up any of the other things. I wanted to try to get away from some of the steroid. So we had done the pre-med of the steroid with the second dose. I didn't want to do it again for the third one. To be determined if that was the right decision. but I really just my body's had a lot of steroids in the past few weeks and trying to cut back wherever possible. So we shall see.
And Brian historically is the guy who doesn't want any meds. Like he never gets sick out of all the members of our family. I mean, we'll be taken down one cold, one flu at a time, and he's the last pin standing. And he's never called out sick for work. So
This is crazy.
this is crazy. Like you go from healthy, healthy, healthy to oh my gosh, cancer. Like this is, and now your body has just been doused with poison to kill this tumor, which it's but it's favorable. It's favorable, so
Okay.
we'll take it.
We'll take anything that's swinging in the right direction.
Yeah. And so what's next up for him is after his repeat imaging, which is already scheduled. And let's just talk about how broken our healthcare system is for a second. I know this is, we are in the medical field. Brian is a physician. And the only reason why things have moved at a pace that it's moved is through connections. And we have reached out to every landline that we know just to try to get in with these specialists. And even then, it is still like, oh, like UCSF can't get him in for repeat imaging until
The end of March.
the end of March.
Yeah.
And
When the surgery is supposed to be scheduled the first week of March, but they have no availability until then. Yeah. I mean, right now, imaging seems to be a really challenging aspect. Kind of everywhere that we've looked for both PET and MR imaging, they're booked out a couple of months. And so, which is crazy in the world of, obviously, in the world that I normally live in, spine based, it's elective medicine, right? If somebody has a disc herniation, it hurts. You're not talking life or death situations. Obviously, I love what I do. I care about my patients deeply, but if they get pushed back for an MRI 3 or 4 weeks, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's frustrating, but for people dealing with cancer, people dealing with decisions on surgery that are significantly impacting life, to have delays is really, I think, something that's just a struggle to kind of understand how the system is working for it. And not to take this on a big system-wide thing, because I definitely don't want to be having those conversations, but it is, it's very interesting and eye-opening to be on this side of the world, to be on the patient side, trying to get things scheduled, trying to help things to move. And like Ash was saying, like we know the system. I'm a physician. I work in private practice. I would imagine that I know the system better than 99.99% of people that are out there. And for us to have difficulties with scheduling, communication, timing of things, like what are normal people supposed to do, right? It is absolutely mind-boggling. And yeah,
the cost.
Yeah, well, that once again, another soapbox that we probably don't necessarily need to open, but yeah,
We'll
crazy.
tell you, Collin, how much chemo is costing. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Even for us, we were like, seriously? That's what this costs? But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just going to say to that, like you were saying, you can't really imagine like people that don't have the connections, right? My best friend's dad, right around the time actually you kind of got your second diagnosis, was diagnosed with colon cancer. And he was having all sorts of pain and all these things. And I mean, it took him weeks just to get an appointment with an oncology nurse just to talk about things. And then several weeks after that was when he could actually meet with an oncologist. And it's crazy because you're talking, I mean, your tumor grew like that. And when you're waiting weeks just to talk to a doctor, and that's not even to get treatment, I mean, that's the difference, I think, for like life and death for some people and some of these cancers, right? It's
100%.
that it's scary.
Yeah. It's really sad. And I don't know what can be done. The medical system is completely impacted. There's so many shortages, and there's obviously a need for this, but I don't know how it's going to be resolved. One of my friends had texted me that her friend is going through stage 3 or stage 4 melanoma, and she can't even get in to start immunotherapy for months. Like, okay, how long is she going to have left? Like, that's crazy to me. But so we have repeat imaging in a week, and then the plan is surgery around the first week of March. And that, do you want to talk about your surgery at all or no?
Sure. I mean, as of now, the plan is a partial glossectomy.
No, it's
Oh, sorry,
hemiglossectomy.
hemiglossectomy,
You had a partial.
which means the entire right side of the tongue is going to be removed, which will require reconstruction. So they'll do a flap from my thigh to be able to recreate the floor of the mouth. And yeah, so I will have half of a tongue and will need to be hospitalized for about a week afterwards while they let it heal up, and they have to have an NG tube in to be able to get nutrition in, and then the road to recovery and rehab and relearning how to talk and all those things is going to come once the primary healing stops or completes. So it sounds like we still got a ways ahead, and I think depending on what all of the pathology shows, I think right now everyone's feeling that radiation is probably going to be a part of that future plan. So surgery, recover 6 weeks, radiation for 6 weeks with continued immunotherapy after that point. Yeah. So, I mean, we're walking this road. We're keeping our eyes above water and staying focused, but knowing that there's still a long ways ahead of us. I think one of the terms that I've started to use this past week, as I've been talking to Ashley, and she's been asking me a million different questions, and we've been talking to friends who have been asking a million different questions, is just this decision fatigue. There's a lot of things that we've been deciding on, as we've talked about, from which pathway to take to changing our diet or thinking about supplements and all of the thinking about trying to get exercise and workouts, and but balancing with my body overreacting and getting rashes everywhere. It feels like an insane number of decisions. And once again, in the setting of, I feel like I'm a guy that makes a lot of the decisions all the time, to trying to think through every single one of these steps, which it's not lost on me that in my mind, every single decision that I'm making is potentially life or death. Um, and so I know that I probably put way too much weight on every individual decision, but I've really felt that since this past chemo, or going into this last chemo, was just this overwhelming kind of feeling of, I just don't want to think anymore. So that's an interesting new tidbit for me.
Yeah, and just to give some context. So, one, I love how social media has just connected us with so many amazing people, one of whom is Dr. Ivy. She is a pediatric dentist in Southern California. She had sent me a post on Instagram about Chef Shirley. She was on Top Chef, and you don't watch Top Chef, right, Collin? No.
I do not.
Anyway, she sent me Shirley's post, and it was about Shirley's own experience going through stage 4 tongue cancer. And I started doing, some stalking on Shirley's Instagram. And basically, she is now 15 months in remission. So she was diagnosed in, I think, late 2023, early 2024. She started her chemo in LA, but after doing a lot of research, she ended up moving to Chicago to do some chemo radiation trial at University of Chicago. And she's been in remission for 15 months without needing to remove her entire tongue. Because once you have stage 4, the option she was given was, we need to remove the entire tongue. And she's a chef. So she's like, I don't want to do that. Let's see an alternative direction. So she ended up closing her restaurant, moving to Chicago, and doing 50 rounds of chemo radiation, to the point where, like, if you go down her feed, she has radiation burns on her neck from where they had to radiate her. But she has her tongue. She has complete restoration of her taste. She opened 2 new restaurants, and she was able to do this through the amazing cancer research that has been going on at University of Chicago. So I brought this to Brian's attention, hey, do you want to explore this avenue? Because taking out half your tongue, I mean, it's already such a mental hurdle having part of your tongue taken out. And his speech, you can hear him, he sounds fine, but is it 100%? No. He says S's and there's a lisp there, but he's definitely recovered. The second round of surgery, it's going to be more invasive. So half of the tongue, a graft, and then also two of his lymph nodes lit up during the PET. So they're going to do removal of those nodes. So they're going to reopen the neck where they had initially cut open. So it's just a lot. And that's when I had brought it to Brian, like, hey, do you want to explore potentially a non-surgical route? And that's when he said, like, I can't make any more decisions. I'm like so spent.
Yep.
But
I
I don't
can't
know.
imagine. I mean, her story is great, but it's a trial, right? Like
Mhm.
the pros and cons. Yeah, I have a hard time making like everyday decisions, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Like simple ones. I can't imagine what that's like, Brian. And I've got to just wonder, like, is it just easier to hopefully get it done sooner than
It feels
waiting?
it feels that way, yeah.
Mhm. Like as soon as, I mean, the surgery is incredibly invasive, but once that's done, then you're working towards the road to
Healing.
Yep.
recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As I think, which kind of coincides with my thoughts earlier, right? The more that I feel like I have some say in what's happening, I feel like the easier it is for me. And so, like, following the path, getting to the point where, okay, recovery is my job. Like, my job is to do the rehab, to do speech therapy, to regain strength, to like, there's the things that I know how to do that stuff, right? I don't know how to be a patient, to be patient and let medicine work, and to sit on the couch and let my body have enough energy to fight. Like, those are things that I don't do well, and that are a little harder for me to kind of sit with.
Ash always talks about just how disciplined you are. And I think I have like a fraction of that, but I agree with you. It's a control thing.
Mm.
Like you control your workouts, you control your diet. And at least if it's working, that's on you. And if it's not, it's because you probably did something. Whereas, so you're saying like the healing, that makes, I think, just a lot of sense in my brain. Like that will be the things that you have to work on.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So we were recovering from chemo. I say we because I have the sympathy body pains. And we'll keep you posted as to the updates. But because I am Brian's biggest advocate, I'm still trying to get him in to be seen at MD Anderson, which is a world-renowned cancer clinic in Houston. And speaking of amazing network, so Dr. Katie Toe, she is the one, like I texted Katie, I'm like, Katie, like before we jump into this surgery, I just want to make sure that we are exploring all avenues. And do you have any connections at MD Anderson, which is in her city? She's just like a drive away from that hospital. And she messaged me back. She's like, someone's going to be reaching out to you and keep me updated. And literally maybe 30 minutes after she messaged me, he was getting the call. This just happened on Friday. We were at chemo. He got the call, and the patient liaison was already getting his intake information. So they're already working on it, which is incredible. And we've just been covered with so much love and support and prayers from people near and far, like our team, our work families. Brian got this incredible surprise gift dropped off on our doorstep just right before his chemo. And it was a quilt from his work, and all 100+ employees had handwritten notes of encouragement. And I haven't seen Brian get teary-eyed in a bit, and that definitely did it. And with our Smile and Co family, I know that my schedule has just been ridiculous. And every time I think I'm fine and I'm going to see patients, I end up going to work with swollen eyes. And you guys send me home and tell me that you'll handle the schedule and not even to worry about it. And then with Collin and the making of, and you guys listening, like I can't even tell you how much it means to Brian and me that we have this incredible community of just people who are helping and lifting us up in prayers and offering support and connections and sending me Instagram stories. And it's just meant the world of difference for us and like our baseball families, and just getting words of encouragement through cards and food. I keep denying everyone, like everyone's been offering a meal train and we're like, no, it's fine. We're fine. And then they'll send an electronic gift card for Uber Eats. So we feel so loved and supported. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for everything.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is absolutely amazing. You know, you talk about community. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time over the years trying to focus on building community, and I think this season has felt exactly the reason why you invest so heavily into that. Because whether it's you or whether it's somebody else that needs that support, you know, you invest into it first. You build, you make connections, you try to provide value for people, and it comes back a millionfold.
That's a good way to wrap. All right. Thank you
Yep.
guys.
We're all teary-eyed over here. So, and goodbye.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being a part of this network, of being a part of our tribe. We just love and adore you all, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us. And thank you for showing up every week to listen. And if there is a period of time where an episode isn't released, I'm going to be out of commission with Brian as the surgery creeps closer. So I don't know. I don't want to put all of that on Collin to keep releasing episodes. But in case there is a week of silence from us, just know that we're thinking about you guys. And we ask that you keep us in your prayers as we continue this season, this messy middle, so to speak. And we'll be back ready to record in no time, I'm sure.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.